Welcome to another episode of Down the Barrel Podcast with Jimmy and Dino.
And sometimes Jared.
Down the Barrel Podcast is brought to you by the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association
and wolf.report. Wolf.report, a platform dedicated to elevating the voices of Minnesota hunters, trappers, and outdoor enthusiasts. Join us in advocating for responsible wolf management in Minnesota. Share your reports, photos, and stories, and together we will ensure that they are seen by all.
The Minnesota Deer Hunters Association, protecting the future of deer and deer hunting through habitat, education, advocacy, and legislation.
Welcome back. We are here today with Kelly Straka, Director of Fish and Wildlife for the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources.
Now, is that Dr. Kelly Straka?
Wow, you're starting off pretty heavy. Yes, actually.
I mean, technically it is.
Technically it is,
Yeah.
but then it gets in that weird world of like, well, is it director, doctor, or doctor, director?
Right,
Or,
that's a mouthful.
and Kelly is fine.
Kelly's fine? Good.
Kelly
All right.
works.
I can say Kelly.
I can respond.
Yeah, that's a lot easier.
Yeah, right?
A lot of big
I
words.
really struggled to get through that title, so
That's
You did it. You did
That's
a
why
bang-up
we
job.
let you
Did I?
say it. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean,
We'll stick with
technically
Kelly.
you are a doctor of veterinarian. Is that what it is? Veterinary medicine?
Yes. Technically, I'm a veterinarian. I
Right.
hold a doctorate in veterinary medicine,
Okay.
so well done. Yes.
Good.
I mean, if we're going to be technical this early in the show.
He
I
did
did
study right away.
Well, my daughter's going for that. So
Oh, is she really?
yeah.
Well, we should talk sometime.
Well, she's finishing up her biology degree at St. Scholastica right now.
Okay.
So I'm hoping she dives into the rest of it like she wants to.
Well, and I'm not far from St. Scholastica, so that's
Yeah.
nice.
Mhm. Yeah. She's done right now. She lives there. It's her last year.
there you go.
And we've got a little guest in the studio
Yeah,
with
we
us
do.
today.
We do. I was hoping, I don't know if your mics are going to pick that up or
It
not,
might
but just
It
for
might
your
not, but
listeners'
yeah.
awareness, there's a little bit of a whine in the background, and it's not Jared, contrary to what you might be thinking.
Yeah, it might be.
I'm just
At
saying.
times it is.
Okay, well, fair, but I do have my one of my dogs with me. So Rye is here in the studio, and she's really liking it in here.
Yeah,
I,
digs
like
it.
she's
Oh,
made
yeah.
herself. You guys, I got to tell your listeners, like she's made herself quite at home already in here. So
Yeah.
it's pretty great.
Beautiful German short-haired pointer.
Right. She loves her coyote.
Yep.
She does.
I heard you guys got into some birds today.
We did. So we were hunting just a little bit west of Grand Rapids here. That's where we are right now. And we were about 20 minutes or so west of here. And we did. We saw 8 grouse. I thought for sure we were going to see some woodcock. We were in some pretty good woodcock habitat, but we didn't see any. But I don't know if a lot of your listeners are out lately. It's warm. I mean, it's really warm for the dogs.
Yep.
We still have a lot of leaves on the tree. It's really, really dry. And so it's not exactly your ideal conditions, but we've been carving out time to get out regardless. It's really important. It's my first season hunting with Rye. Like I just got her at the end of last year. She's been an awesome dog so far. So I really I want to be able to connect on some birds with her and have her experience that. So
How old is she?
we think she's around 2.5.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she's pretty young.
Yeah, she's young yet. She's got a lot of energy. She's got a lot to learn. I just got her, like I said, at the end of last year. And so I don't know much about her background. It was a situation where I just got a phone call from a colleague that was like, hey, we've got this dog. No idea of her background really, but she needs a home. So, but she's beautiful. I mean, these guys can testify to it.
Yeah.
She's a gorgeous
She's a
dog.
good girl.
She's an amazing dog. So I'm really happy to have her.
Right.
We have a couple chihuahuas at my house that I'll trade you.
Oh, do you? No, I'm cool.
Are you sure?
So yeah, I mean nothing against Chihuahuas, but I think I'm
everything
okay.
against
No, I
Chihuahuas.
think I'm fine. We did have a good conversation earlier in the studio about I've got an Anatolian Pyrenees.
Oh.
Right. And it
I love
sounds
me a
like,
Pyrenees.
Jim, you've got a Gray Pyrenees.
Yeah.
And so, those dogs
He's-
have my heart too.
Oh,
so.
he stole my heart. He gets me up all night long, and he gets me up. He wakes me up in the middle of the night, not to go outside, to snuggle with him.
Oh, buddy.
So I get up in the middle of the night, and I lay on the floor with him, and we just kind of hang out for a bit, and I go back to bed.
So what I'm hearing is, if your listeners ever think that you sound a little off or a little tired, it's because you were snuggling.
Exactly.
the
He woke me up at
Pyrenees.
1 o'clock last night. I got up, we hung out, I went to bed, and then he woke me up again at 5 o'clock and was like, "That's good enough, Dad. It's time to get up."
Yeah, it's
So
time.
I did.
That's enough. That's time.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Gotta love dogs, but not chihuahuas.
Not chihuahuas.
No. Never go pheasant hunting and while your wife is going to a pet adoption event.
Is that what happened?
That's what happened. I came home from a pheasant hunting trip in eastern Colorado, like right on the Nebraska border. I came home and there were 2 chihuahuas in my living room.
That sounds like a nightmare, actually.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. And one of them hid under the couch and I didn't even see that thing for a week.
Probably shaking under there because that's what they do.
So, and they're still here. So if any of the listeners are looking for some chihuahuas.
Great hunting dogs.
Does your wife listen to this by chance?
No,
I'm just
she's
going to
listened
say,
to a
like,
couple episodes.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, it surprised me.
Does it? She hears enough from me.
That's true.
No, it surprised me that she's listened to 2.
Oh, yeah.
That's funny. So, Kelly, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? You know, where you're from originally, and you know, schooling and whatnot.
Sure. Oh, this could be a heck of a story. So I'll see what I can do, you guys. So I consider myself definitely a Minnesota girl. I grew up west of Minneapolis in the western suburbs, right? Grew up single parent family. My mom raised me and my brother. Really good upbringing, but I was never exposed to a lot in the outdoors. Admittedly, I wasn't. And it wasn't until I went to college. I started at UMD. So I started going to school up in Duluth, and I loved that. Studied overseas for a year. I played rugby, and so I went over to Australia.
Nice.
Was playing rugby over in Australia, and I really got exposed to some wildlife stuff, right? I got like tied up on a wildlife field project looking at platypus physiology.
Oh, wow.
So, right. And so I was like putting radio transmitters on platypus, and I was living out at this place called Cradle Mountain in Tasmania, Australia, right? Which is like, come on, like this is a dream story.
Yeah.
But so I was doing some field work out there, and I was like, wait, people do this for a living. Like, right. Like all of a sudden I was like, wildlife biology became this fascinating thing, and the intersection of wildlife health and wildlife habitat and wildlife population dynamics. Like I geeked out over it big time. So came back from Australia, finished up my degree in fish and wildlife management down in the cities. So at the University of Minnesota in the cities. And I was one of the last students to graduate from the College of Natural Resources when that was a college. It's changed a few times ever since. But so I got my bachelor's degree, and right after that, I got a position. It was like a joint position with Ducks Unlimited and Minnesota DNR to be like a wildlife lake specialist, working in a shallow lakes program, doing wetland surveys, duck ID, fish surveys, like everything in the wetland habitat world. And I loved it. I loved that job. I did that for several years. Ended up leaving because I got an offer over in Hawaii, and I was a biologist for the state of Hawaii. Yeah. So I was stationed, like, it's a funny story too, man. I have so many stories, but I was stationed in this little federal housing building on the eastern side of Mauna Kea, which was an active volcano at the time. Right. And so I was living there by myself. I had no phone, no computer. I had electricity, no running water, but it was like I was there running trap lines. I was trapping mongoose and feral cats to protect the endangered nene goose. So loved it. Did a lot of field work there. Loved that. Really got more and more interested in health and in the health of the ecosystem and the health of wildlife populations and human health and like those dynamics. So I came back to the States and I decided to apply for grad school, which was interesting because when I finished my undergrad, I was like, dude, I'm never stepping foot on college campus again. It's not my scene, right? Like it just wasn't, I didn't feel like it was really a good fit for me. And so I never thought I'd go back. I swore I'd never go back. And then I decided to not only apply for grad school, but to apply for veterinary school to study wildlife health and apply for a master's at the same time. So I pursued a master's in epidemiology, like really interested in disease dynamics, especially in ecosystems, like in the natural world. So master's in public health was actually the college that I went to, and my doctorate in veterinary medicine. At the time, and this was at the U of M, at the time they had a program for vet students that you could actually track. It was called interdisciplinary track. So you could pursue something a little different than your usual Chihuahua medicine, right? Nothing against Chihuahuas, man. I don't want a whole lot of comments on your podcast here, but I was really interested in free-ranging wildlife health. I knew I didn't want to go down the zoo med route. I really was interested in wildlife health, wildlife medicine, free-ranging health dynamics. Anyway, so that's what I got. I mean, I got my doctorate in interdisciplinary medicine with a focus on free-ranging wildlife health and a master's in epidemiology. And like, it was a great training program. I mean, it was awesome. Yeah. Right after that, I got a position. I toyed with the idea of practice for a little while, and it just wasn't for me. Like, I have so much respect for my colleagues in clinical practice, but it just, the thought of being inside all the time was like soul crushing. So I ended up getting a position as the first wildlife veterinarian for the state of Missouri. And I started a wildlife health program there, did that for several years, and then moved up to Michigan and ran their very well-established wildlife health program. And so I oversaw their disease lab, their entire health program until 2021. And that's when I came over here to Minnesota to head up the wildlife section within the Division of Fish and Wildlife.
Okay.
I've been there for the past 2.5 years, and just this July was appointed to the director position
that's
as
awesome.
head of the division, which is pretty honestly pretty exciting.
Right.
So-
That's big news, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
because it's pretty much everywhere.
Was that like a 10-minute intro too? I'm so sorry if it was.
Oh, we love
Yes.
10-minute intros.
okay.
Right? We do.
It
Better
means
more.
we don't have to talk as much.
Exactly.
Oh, is that, okay, perfect. Good.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome.
Right. I mean, I heard Australia, Hawaii.
Right.
I mean,
Missouri.
Missouri. I mean,
it's right up there with. And you even said Hawaii, right?
Hawaii.
Yeah.
Hawaii.
Yeah,
I
I
heard
was
that.
corrected often. And same thing with Missouri, right? So if any of your listeners are down in Missouri, they're going to be like, "Oh, she can't even say it right." So it's Missouri.
Right.
I was in Hawaii.
Well, unless you're from,
Yeah.
unless you're from Kansas and it's Missouri,
Fair.
Missouri.
Fair.
Yeah. I think that's anywhere but
pretty much.
Missouri.
Yeah.
But yeah, Hawaii. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember going to Hawaii and I said all kinds of things wrong and I didn't realize until I got there.
Yeah.
But they'll tell you.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was a cool experience though. I mean, it really was. And like that was my first chance with, and because truthfully, like my only job was to run trap lines and there was nobody else there. I was working on a national wildlife refuge by myself. Like, do you have any idea how frequently you can check trap lines when you have nothing else to do? Like I put on, I mean, so many miles every day. It was awesome because that was my only responsibility, right?
I'm just surprised there's anything there to trap.
Yeah, so that's a whole interesting story because of the mongoose. Like the mongoose was intentionally introduced into the island state of Hawaii to control rats. Problem is, you're dealing with two animals with very different natural histories. You got one that's diurnal, active in the day, and one that's nocturnal, that's active in the night. Not exactly your best control method, right? And so these mongoose started obviously taking the old country buffet that is native Hawaiian wildlife and kind of
Which is
wreaking
basically just
havoc,
birds,
which is a
isn't it?
lot of birds. I
Right.
mean, and they've got amazing birds, down there. So got to spend some time misnetting birds too and banding birds, and that was incredible. But my primary goal was just to trap the invasive mongoose.
You want to know the most abundant bird that I saw when I was in Hawaii? Chickens.
Oh, I believe that. Yeah.
How are we doing on the goat issue in Hawaii?
We have. Oh, I was like, my goat issue. I have goats. So all of a sudden, I was like, do I have an issue?
knows that I have
Oh my
goat
gosh,
issues?
what do you know that I don't, Jared?
No, when you mentioned invasive species, and I'm gonna try to get this right, Hawaii.
Oh, good. Hawaii. Yeah.
I immediately went to goats.
Okay. So maybe I was on the Big Island.
Okay.
The problem we had on the Big Island was feral pigs and actually feral cattle.
Okay.
So there were feral cattle and feral
huh?
pigs. And when I was there was a I hope I can get this right. There was a hunting season, I think, on the cattle.
Okay.
I did not participate, so I don't. I was running trap lines like a demon. But there was also an active feral pig eradication program, and the pigs, I will say, were all over Hakalau Refuge where I was.
Yeah.
And they were wreaking havoc on the fences and on bird nests. I mean, they were just incredibly destructive.
Yeah,
to
when I
the
was there, I
ecosystem
ran into a bunch of guys hunting pigs.
Hunting pigs? Yeah.
Yeah, on the sugarcane fields.
Yeah.
I was like, what are these guys doing? It's basically Hawaiian rednecks out there. and they had guns, and I'm driving to go look at this waterfall in a convertible Mustang. I'm cruising down this dirt road, and I run these guys with guns. I'm like, oh, man. And I actually stopped and I'm like, what are you guys doing? We're hunting pigs.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. And the other thing I will just say, because I never got used to it, is, and I don't know if it's, I don't know enough about it, but I'll be honest, if you start looking around, there were a lot of pig heads hanging in trees.
Really?
And so that was I was told, because I asked about it. I was like, why are we hanging the heads in the trees? Like, this is new. And they were like, well, it's almost like Well, one guy told me it was a warning to the other
Right.
pigs, which I'm like, I
Like a head
suppose,
on a
you know,
pike.
like I guess. I mean, it's a little morbid, but I guess. I guess I don't know enough about pig psychology. But the other one was it's almost like an offering back to the birds because the birds would swarm on these heads, you know, and so they were picking, I'm sure, the bugs off of them and everything. And so they were like, it's actually a way to pay back to the birds. And I'm like, okay, that's
I like that answer.
you know, I like that one. That was that
that
like
one's pretty good.
you know the whole like cycle of life and ecosystem approach. I was like, okay, I can swing with that. I don't know again about the pigs are going to be warned by their brethren swinging from the trees. I don't know enough about how
I don't think they care.
I don't really know.
I don't
Well,
think
it's
so.
kind of like the offal watching project that we have here in the state through the U of M that we've always participated in and encouraged our members to. And I've felt like that's a way to kind of, you know, give back to the wildlife that reside on our landscape, and also a great way to do some research and get some cool pictures.
Yep.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
I don't even know what you just said, honestly.
You want me to say it a little slower?
No, the first word. The first word.
Offal.
Awful.
That's your gut pile.
Yeah.
OFFAL.
Yeah, I knew that actually. Now
yeah.
I think about
And some
it.
people say awful, right? Like the awful pile.
I say gut pile.
but it's
There you go. Yeah, it's your gut pile.
Yeah.
All right.
It's that.
It's kind of like scat and shit. Yeah. Offal is the better way to say guts.
That's good.
Okay.
It's got a
Sorry,
weird
I was
name.
still trying to figure that out. But yeah, I read something about that the other day, honestly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, do you have a link to that or anything on your?
We do. It's
Okay,
on our
there it is.
website. It once we get to deer season, which we're here now, it typically goes out in our newsletter as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a
Cool
great
project.
project.
It goes out in our newsletter.
It will be soon.
It will be.
I have to do one tomorrow, so
Well, and we have put an article in Whitetails.
Whitetails as
I
well.
want to say last fall.
Yep.
Not
maybe
this,
that's where I read it.
not this most current one. The last 2023.
Yeah, and it's a great project. You know, you can actually contact the project, and they'll send you trail cameras and SD cards and everything
Really?
to
That's
so
set
cool.
up. And
Yeah.
it's a great project.
No, I think I read it. Didn't we get a message from somebody the other day
We did.
about not doing that?
Yeah.
I won't say any names or anything, but the
I don't
reasoning
remember
was
his
what was the reasoning?
Well,
Oh,
if you want to get into it.
Well, I don't know. We don't have to get deep into it.
The reasoning was because we shouldn't be feeding the wolves.
Right.
Because they're the only things out there.
Right. Yeah. Forget the birds and the
I don't even know how they got a
Coons.
deer for a gut pile.
The birds. And
I've
and
put
everything.
cameras on gut piles before, and I've seen deer on them before.
oh yeah.
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 You'll see everything.
Right.
You know?
It was crazy. Big old eagles.
I actually got a deer on a few days after you got your deer from the gut pile.
Really?
Remember it came right over where the
Yeah,
gut pile was, and I got it off of that. You know, so I thought that was pretty cool. But anyways,
Well, yeah. And I mean, this just kind of little tangent here, but those of you out there that like to hunt squirrels, I prefer to hunt red squirrels because they mess with my bird feeders.
Right.
The best way I found to hunt red squirrels is to shoot the first one you see and let it lay there.
Yeah.
And then the others start coming in and try to eat it. And you can just keep picking them off. It's crazy.
It's kind of morbid. But
It's morbid.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's true.
100%. Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah.
They'll stick
Crazy.
around. They'll come in. It's almost like a calling card.
Right?
Right.
Maybe that was the pig technique. Maybe that was the tactic behind the pig
There
head.
you
Maybe
go.
it was actually a way to
Right.
shoot more.
I'd
They just
almost
didn't want to
believe
tell me
that.
that.
I'd
That I
almost
could
believe
see.
I like it.
it's all come around.
There you
Yeah.
go. Full circle.
Yep.
See?
Exactly.
Cannibalism. It's the way to get rid of invasive species.
So just so your listeners know,
Right.
the reason I'm here is because I was told that this would be a podcast on cannibalism. So I was like, wow, that's a first.
we like to
You know?
cover that.
Okay. I mean,
I mean, you
this
did
could
work
be-
in Hawaii for a
I
while.
did work. That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, I did, and part of the bio that I left out too a little bit. When I was in vet school, I actually spent some time as a volunteer veterinarian over in Morocco. Right. So my only trip to Africa, I was working in Morocco. And like that was a really crazy experience too, because it was outside the town of Fez. And some people know Fez because it's just got this incredible like indoor or outdoor market. Like it's a very cool place. But it also is not exactly a safe place, and especially not for
Right.
women. And so the clinic I was working at was amazing, and it was a sanctuary really. And so people could get their equids, their horses, donkeys, and mules treated for free. And so it was a great place, unbelievable staff there, but it was surrounded by this like 10-foot high by 3-foot wide concrete wall for safety.
Wow.
And inside the grounds was beautiful, but you're like surrounded by this wall, and it was scary, right? It was like the suffocating. And so why I'm making this connection with the cannibalism comment, I'm not quite sure, truthfully.
I was wondering.
But I know I was trying to tie it back, and I think I lost it. But it really was like this just again, it's like a little bit of a gory reality, right? Where it's just like I was in this beautiful place.
Sketchy.
Yeah, beautiful place. But at the same point in time, like there's a guard walking around the top of the wall every night. And it's like, that's sketchy.
So how long were you in Morocco?
Oh, geez. I want to say that was probably about 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not too long.
So it wasn't too long. It really wasn't. It was a really good experience.
And that was, you were there working on, I love the word equids.
Equids, yes,
Right.
equids. So equine medicine.
Oh, yeah.
So your horses, your donkeys, your mules, and I had a really soft spot for donkeys at the time. So I was getting a lot of the donkeys that were coming in that were used heavily because cars weren't allowed in Fez. The roads weren't wide enough, and so people relied on primarily donkeys, to a lesser extent mules, but for transport of their goods.
Wow.
So we saw a lot of trauma and stuff like that just for those animals, but. It was incredible. I mean, it was, when you learn, to me, it's almost like sportsman's medicine. I don't know how else to frame it right now, but it's like, it's amazing what you can do in the field.
Right.
When you're kind of in a
emergency,
pinch.
yeah.
Like, what can I do with this roll of duct tape and a chapstick? Like it's amazing what we can do. And it was the same way at that clinic because, it didn't have a lot of funding and it's like we had limited supplies. And it's amazing what you can do with a roll of duct tape and a ceiling fan. I'll just say, like, you can make splints for animals out of ceiling fan blades. And like, we learned how to out of necessity, you just learn different ways of doing things. Wow. And I loved that.
Good.
Kelly Straka, veterinary MacGyver.
That's
Yeah, exactly.
That would totally be a show on Discovery Channel.
Yeah, right. Right.
Absolutely.
Oh.
But back to Minnesota.
Yes.
Minnesota. Did I say it right?
Minnesota.
I think you have to say it that way.
I'm from here and I can't say it.
Dude, I definitely say it that way. Minnesota.
Minnesota.
I was thinking about the other night. It's like, yeah, I say it that way.
Do you just drag out the O, or do you do the T, or do you use the T? D. You do a soda?
Minnesota. I mean,
you do the T too.
Minnesota. I do.
Or are you just doing it because we're all staring at you right now?
I know you guys are making me feel a little uncomfortable. Right. Minnesota. I mean, you're all from Minnesota too, so should I? Well, except for you.
Not.
Yeah.
Do you know where you're from?
Yeah, Southern Kansas.
Oh, that's right. We already talked about this. Okay.
Yeah.
His mom.
But I went to school in Wyoming with some people from Minnesota, and this one gal that went to school with, we called her the Big O because she really drug out the O. She was actually from Grand Marais.
Okay.
So
was this before or after Fargo came out?
Right.
Well, let's see. That would have been back in 2001, somewhere right around there. So
I don't remember. But I know it got really big then because everybody's like, oh, Minnesotans always talk. It's like,
yeah, it was pretty funny.
Right.
Minnesota.
Yeah, I have friends from Missouri that make fun of me every time. Boat, bag, all those ones. They always, every time I say one of those words, they have to repeat it.
Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I'm like, well, you sound dumb too. Ignorant.
Yeah.
Well,
go for it, Jerry.
Well, yeah, bringing it back to Minnesota.
Oh, yeah.
In your new role, like what's going on right now?
Yeah, what do you work on every day?
Yeah.
Oh, geez. So this is kind of the great thing about my job right now is that I'm definitely in the transition, right? Like new to this role. So really trying to get a better understanding of how the division fits in the department. Our leadership at the department level is very strongly working towards more and more coordination between our divisions. And so I spend a lot of time with the other division directors. So like the, director of forestry, the director of enforcement, the director of ecological and water resources, all of these other divisions, we spend quite a bit of time together and really talking about some of the challenges that we have within our own divisions and how we can better coordinate in this sort of, I'm not a big fan of buzzwords, and yet sometimes they just work, but like that interdisciplinary approach to managing natural resources. So there's certainly some of that. Within the Division of Fish and Wildlife, there's just so many things happening at any one given time. And this is kind of one of those things where I wish we did a better job, A, of telling our story, and B, really letting people know, like at the scales that we operate at, because I feel like sometimes there's just this big umbrella that gets cast over the department, right?
Yep.
And the reality is that I've got like incredible people working in the field all over this state, and they're embedded in their local communities, and they're going to the events, and they're talking to the local residents around that area, and it's like we do so much good work at a huge statewide scale. And I think sometimes that's overshadowed. And I I'll just say that I just don't think we've done the best job of telling the story of what our staff do in the field all the time. And so I'm trying to actively push us in that direction because they deserve not only the credit, but like there needs to be better recognition of all of the work that we're doing for natural resources in the state.
Right.
And and so I think that's just something I'm really sensitive to. And that's not at all to downplay the importance of the statewide stuff by any means. But man, like at a local scale, like what we're doing for habitat, what we're doing with the new Dollars for Get Out More campaign. I don't know if you guys have talked about that all, but we got quite a lot of money from the legislature last year as part of this Get Out More effort. And we're putting those dollars in the ground. And like, I just got word this week that we just connected 13 miles of stream passage up on the North Shore, through a new project. And so that story is going to be coming out, but these things are happening all the time. And I'm like, we need to talk about it.
Right.
And especially when it improves things for the wildlife, for the fish, and when it improves anything for the sportsmen and women, and so I get really excited about it, and I'm hoping I can do a better job in that arena.
Well, I'm very glad you brought that up because that is I've been pretty critical of that in the past with the DNR.
Okay,
and
fair.
just with how much misinformation is out there, and I feel like the DNR, that's an important role for them to play, right? Is to tell that story, to get the right information out there. But then at the same time, I looked internally a little bit and realized we have the same problem.
Yeah.
Correct.
And that's 100% why we created Jim's role and hired him on. It's like, that's his job description. Line 1 says, tell MDHA's story, celebrate our successes.
The mastermind. There it is. The master teller.
I mean, the example I always give is last year alone, MDHA through CPL grants with the DNR
perfect.
created 650 acres of brand new public land. And we didn't tell a damn person about it.
No. I guarantee,
I will shamelessly, I don't know. I will say, embarrassingly, how about that? Because I can't find the right word to use. I didn't know that, Jared.
Right.
Like, I didn't know that in my role. And if I don't know that, and I now, technically the CPL program is in the Division of Fish and Wildlife, so kind of in my scope, right? I didn't know that. And like, that's the kind of stuff that matters, and these guys know this. And I can't even remember if we said this during this podcast or just right before, but like Ryan and I were out on our, on our areas hunting today. And like, those are the things that we don't do the best job telling about. So
I think the key to that is telling individual stories,
right? From
I shouldn't say lower, but from the personal perspective. Especially you look at things from up here, looking down, and the people on the ground are the ones that really know the best, the true story.
100%.
And you got to get them involved to tell some of that story, because 100%. That's how the general public generally relates.
Yeah.
Yep. And I would say that's how you have to at least start.
Right. There. Well, and even the statement I just gave, 650 acres last year. Right. Did I tell you where that acreage is? No. And so that's where Big Fork was a big part of it. Mm-hmm. But that's where I need to do that better job of the local scale. Right. And to date, I typically do that in the form of chapter or regional meetings or banquets. Right. Mm-hmm. I have Kim Washburn, our grants coordinator, print off a report for me of everything we've done within or around that community. Right. And that's where I give that report. But still, like, what impact does that have other than to the 300 to 400 people in the room? You know? Right. So
yeah, but I think I'll just say that I think that's a really important thing for you in your role to recognize, as it is for me in my role to recognize, because it's almost too easy to not pay attention to that important fact of what's happening at those local scales and what's really impacting people's lives, and that's what's
important to those people.
It's so important. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I just feel like we've got people across the state that are pouring their heart out for whether it's part of this project you're talking about or something, but like, they're doing such great work.
Yeah.
And we just don't let them have the spotlight enough. I actually got I won't say the name, but there was a particular media personality here in the state that gave me a hard time not too long ago, because he was like, I've never been able to find really an interview with you, and like every time I've called you, you've pushed me off, and I'm using air quotes for your listeners. Mm-hmm. You've pushed me off on like some of your staff. And I said, that's for good reason, because if you want to find out about the deer season, if you want to find out about what to expect for the turkey season, if you want, like, you should talk to the people that are experts there, like that have, and they deserve to be able to share their knowledge and expertise and like get credit for it. Because otherwise it's like, I mean, that's what they do and it's what they pour their heart out for. So I think Minnesotans and the broader public should be able to hear from them. Yep. And then certainly understanding truthfully part of my role, and Jared, I'm sure you feel the same way. Like if things don't go great, if there's criticism, if there's pushback, if there's, the DNR is doing everything wrong and do not resuscitate and every other joke in the world, that can come to me, right? Like that's my role. Yep. Right. But don't put it out on the staff. It's not like they're working their tails off and they're the experts. I say that all the time. Like they deserve the credit for the good stuff.
I agree.
Okay, and
but also,
I'm feeling her to say but. There was a but coming. I knew this because Jared put his hand up, and I was like, okay, and.
Go for it.
It's Dean's fault.
Oh,
that's kind of what the point I was trying to make.
And I am totally okay with that.
I mean, you are kind of, well, maybe not anymore, but you were an illegal.
A what?
An illegal in Minnesota.
I just want to make sure. Can I use that now? Is that my go-to? It's Dean's fault. I just want to know the next time I get a call.
You should put that in like your next meeting minutes and stuff.
No, it's going to be my signature line. There it is in my email. Yeah, right.
If you're unhappy with what I do, it's Dean's fault.
Call Dean at. I'm going to need your number before we leave here.
Yeah, I'll make sure to get it to you.
I appreciate that.
See, I put it's Dean's fault, and then I list Dean's wife's number.
Yeah, but she'll agree
she
with
can add it to the list.
That's right. Yeah. He is from Kansas.
Definitely agree with you on that.
But no, in all sincerity, I completely agree. It's the people in the communities where the work is happening that know the true meaning of the work and the impact that it has. And yes, if there's an issue, by all means, talk to me. Or talk to Kelly if it's a DNR issue.
Well, and with telling your story helps get the good things that you guys are doing out there for both organizations, because you always hear the negative everywhere, social media, everything. And it's like, but if you can tell your story a little bit better, when people come out negative that don't know the story, you can point to it, just like we've done and have been trying to increase even on the wolf issues and everything else. It's like, well, honestly, when people say we guys haven't been doing anything, well, we have, and we have been doing it for 40 plus years. Now we're getting out there a little bit more in people's faces. So that's where we all have to kind of come together and tell the story,
Absolutely.
Like
Well, somebody's got to tell the story.
Somebody's got to.
Here's the thing. If you don't tell the story, then the story is told without you.
Exactly.
And generally speaking, the story is wildly inaccurate. That's the reality. And so it's like you kind of gotta. Yeah, when there's a vacuum of information, that's where people are going to fill it.
Somebody fills it. Yep.
Somebody fills it.
And then this day and age, that's the worst.
And it's usually a lot of horse shit.
Yep. And then you get a following. And then you get a following, and then it's even worse. And then they start going down that rabbit hole.
Right. Imagine somebody that never even met you writing your biography.
Isn't that crazy?
Right. I wouldn't want that.
And then all the followers follow.
Yeah. Because all they know is what that person says about you.
Right.
That would be an interesting story, Jared.
No, but I think the point here is that's what MDHA is trying to do, is to get out there and write that autobiography. And it sounds like you're on the same mission.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what is the limit on wood ticks?
Okay, so what your listeners can't see right now.
You have reached the limit.
I will tell you.
I mean, there is nowhere to set my drink without squashing ticks. Right
for your listeners' benefit, I'm sitting here as Jared's talking, and he's brilliant. Jared, like I appreciate you guys so much. I really do. And yet, as I'm listening intently, by the way, and I'm actively participating, but in the meantime, I'm also pulling ticks off my dog, and I'm shamelessly, they're accumulating on the counter in front of me, and I feel really bad because you guys can't see it, but there's a tiny pile of ticks that I'm like, I'm sorry.
I would say a decent sized pile.
Well, they're tiny though, so it's a decent pile of tiny.
The ticks themselves are tiny. The pile.
You should know what the limit is, right?
You should. Yeah.
There's no harvest limit on ticks. We are not getting out a regs book for how many. Oh my God, you seriously are.
We need season dates and limits.
Yeah. Exactly.
right.
I will tell
Are
you,
they
this
even
is
in season?
unlimited. This is amazing. And if not, I'm in gross violation over here. So
We did say you were out hunting beforehand, though, right? We did say that.
We did.
I think
So
so.
you were in the woods. So
yes.
it does make sense.
This isn't like a normal thing. I don't just like show up from my house covered in ticks, but it really is getting a little outrageous.
Right.
You're good.
That's quite the pile, though.
So as we said, you're a hunter. You were hunting grouse before this.
Yes.
And you said before that you grew up kind of hunting pheasant, or that was your first.
No, yeah.
hunting.
So this is actually
Yeah.
this was a conversation I think we had before we were rolling here. And so I started if we kind of go back a little bit to when I was talking about right after I got my bachelor's degree and I was working in the Shallow Lakes program with Minnesota DNR and Ducks Unlimited. My boss at the time was brilliant. I mean, I'm sure he still is, but he's an amazing man. And he had a golden retriever by the name of Boomer. And I've talked about Boomer before in the media because he and his dog were absolutely instrumental to me in my early 20s. And I feel like this is how I can relate with more of those people that have that affliction, sometimes affectionately referred to as adult onset hunting. Like I didn't grow up with it. You know, truthfully, I did not grow up with it. And so being able to have somebody like him, his name was Leroy Dahlke. So some of your listeners might recognize him. He was the Wilmer Wildlife area wildlife manager. Amazing man. And he kind of took me out, right? Like, I think he did what a lot of people's dads do for them, or maybe their grandpas do for them. And like, I got that experience through him, and I'm so grateful for it. Like, it's amazing because it changed my life. It changed my relationship with the natural world. It changed everything I wanted to do and everything I cared about because of him. And so I give him huge credit there. But yeah, so I started pheasant hunting. And really enjoyed that, then transitioned into deer hunting and duck hunting and really loved that. At the same point in time, I started fishing a ton, you know, and so I that's when I was living in the Wilmer area. And that's just a great area of the state, especially if you're interested in pheasants, but really just great outdoor opportunities there and tons of public land thanks to our wildlife management area system and the federal waterfowl production areas, tons of land. We could go out, you know, out our doors and hunt anytime. And so, I was really lucky with that. How do we get on this topic? Because I feel like we were talking about something else.
Hunting.
Yeah,
Hunting.
hunting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hunting overall.
Yes, hunting overall. So yeah, I did. Was it last year? I think I took 2 years ago. I took my first whitetail with a bow out of state.
Oh,
so I
really?
shot my first whitetail with a bow in Kentucky. I never hunted Kentucky.
Nice.
Yep.
Wow.
I have a good friend that he lives in Georgia, but he was going hunting in Kentucky, and he asked if I wanted to go, and I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Can't turn that down.
yeah, and I truthfully, I'm not the best at sitting still for very long periods of time. So that can be a challenge, but like elk hunting is my go-to number one favorite. And I actually dated a guy for a little while and he was an elk guide. He's now my husband. Probably because of the elk guiding thing, right? Like I saw an opportunity, right? Like we're all opportunistic humans. And so I saw an opportunity of like, wait a minute,
Right.
get my claws into this one and I can go hunting every year. It hasn't panned out that way, but I will just say that no, we went elk hunting. Northwest Colorado is where he was guiding. And so we spent some time out there. But if any of your listeners haven't done that, it's incredible. It really is such a good
I have
experience.
not done that.
Oh man,
No,
it is
the best.
It is amazing. It is life changing too.
Some of
So
us have
So were
not
you,
lived
like-
in Colorado, though.
That's true. So were you like Route National Forest area?
no, so
Or
we
west
were
of there?
up outside of is it the White River there, right outside of Meeker.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we were right outside of Meeker, and he
great
was working
area.
at the Marvine Ranch and the Rio Blanco Ranch, which are two really big ranches outside of Meeker there. And so we were kind of hunting in that area, and we've gone back 4 times, I think. And it's been a couple years now because we have kids. So now we have 2 active little boys. And so it's hard. I think we've only gone once in the past like 5 years. So hopefully we'll be able to go again soon. But
So do you bow hunt then or rifle?
I do both. I actually prefer to bow hunt.
Right.
I like that more for me. But it also is depending on how late in the season is it and what do we have in the freezer, right? Like truthfully.
And
so
what are the kids up to?
I'm a meat hunter. What's that?
And what are the kids up
And
to?
what
how
are the
much
kids up
time
to?
do you
Yeah.
have?
So
Curious.
speaking of the kids,
would only bow hunt if I could.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
But that takes more time.
it does
Right,
take
it
more
does.
time. But my youngest just turned 8, September 17th, so pretty recently.
Yeah.
And for his birthday, he got his first bow.
Oh, cool.
And so he is pumped. And so
That's
his big
awesome.
brother, who's 10, has been teaching him how to do it, and we've lost a few arrows.
Well, yeah.
We're still working on that.
Still lose some every year.
Right.
Yeah, we've got like a big tarp we got to hang behind the target, and then we've got goats at our house too, and so we've got the target is set up not towards the goat pen. Just to be clear, where is this going?
Just to get that
But it is in that direction, and so it's always funny. And so I have pictures of my little boys, practicing their bows, and in the background there's a line of goats, like an audience, just watching, and it's pretty funny.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I agree. Bowhunting's way to go.
Yes.
I didn't lose a single arrow practicing this summer.
Nice.
Me neither, but I haven't practiced it a whole lot. So.
But I lost 4 targets.
How'd you lose targets?
The bears took them.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Do you stuff them with ice cream? Why are you losing targets?
I buy them from L&M. I put them out there. I shoot them for a week, and then they're gone. And I've now found a couple of them out in the woods. Just
you're kidding!
clawed up from
I've
the bears.
never heard of that before.
I know. I don't know
Why
why.
would they want your targets?
I have no idea. But they're dragging them off for some reason.
Do you shoot after you eat?
Before and after.
So
you're eating
you got
on your
greasy
target?
hands.
But I'm just touching the arrows. Well, I guess you got to put the hand on the target.
I don't know. I'd be leaving a little grease on there.
I can't see
Just
Jared
drug off into
eating.
the
Like
woods.
how much of a disaster do you think
I'm
he is when
guessing
he's
it's
eating?
bad,
With
right?
all,
I'm
like,
guessing
just
it's
food
bad,
everywhere.
right? He's just got grease all over his
Big Mac
hands.
in one
You're just like
hand,
rolling in
bow
it.
in the other.
Not
Rubbing on his pants, rubbing on his target.
Big Mac in a bowl. Yeah,
Although,
it's your daily.
Yeah, but no, I lost quite a few targets.
I've never heard of
this year.
such thing.
I've never heard of that either.
They were-
Truthfully,
Yeah, drug off into the
That's
woods
crazy.
and clawed up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe you should try buying a different kind of target. I don't know.
Maybe I should just talk to the DNR about the bear problem.
Oh,
I got a guy.
Yeah.
I got a guy. I got a guy. I'm sure.
Is it Rye? Where is
Yeah, where's her? Don't say her name. She's actually laying down now.
No, she's just
Yeah.
chilling behind Dino.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm hanging out with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, the bears were bad at my place this
The
year.
bears were, they were abundant this year.
Yeah, I mean, destroyed my bird feeders, which you can't blame them for that. You
Yeah,
know,
fair.
Right.
that's what they do.
Right.
Got into the trash cans again. What they do.
Right.
But yeah, they broke into
they
my
were
screened-in
abundant.
porch
Yeah.
3 times.
Yeah.
Where do you live, Jared?
I'm 20 miles north of here.
Yeah. Okay.
Northeast.
Yeah.
Of here.
Okay. Fair.
Yeah.
We bought our first house up in Cotton, just east of Cotton, Minnesota. If you know where that is, up off Highway 53, going up towards Virginia, and the bear. We had moose up there. Like I remember seeing a lot of moose when we were up there. But the bears would be brutal with the bird feeders too. And I wouldn't even I would stop filling the feeders, and it was almost like out of vengeance they would come and just tear the feeders, and they'd be empty. But they were just like, we're so mad about the fact that you're not filling them, we're going to tear them down anyway. So,
Right.
Right.
I had that happen at my place.
That's pretty much what happened this year.
Yep.
Yeah. We seen more bears this year on trail cam and in our field too that we've never seen before.
Yeah.
There seem to be rather abundant.
Yes.
Well, I'll have to show you some footage, Kelly, of 2 bear cubs wrestling in front of my trail cam this year.
Oh yeah,
We can maybe put it on the
We could.
Facebook or
Yeah, we
something.
can share it.
Yeah.
People are
Yeah,
interested.
pretty cool.
be good to see.
It's like 45 minutes of them just playing.
Just a free for all.
Right. Just
It's
putting
still
on a
fun to
show.
watch that kind of stuff, though. I mean, truthfully, that's fun to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, this guy puts out some sweet play toys.
Well, they weren't even anywhere near that stuff.
Well, it was them though.
Oh, yeah.
Totally for sure.
We had speaking of play toys, we had a situation in Missouri where there were some elk that were reintroduced into southern Missouri from Kentucky, right? And this was a project that I was part of when I was working down there. So the elk were reintroduced, and they're in a new landscape, and I just will never forget. There was one landowner reached out to us and was like, "This is actually really entertaining to watch." And it was a young bull, and he was playing with a swing set, in like rural Ozarks of Missouri, and it's like this old swing set, old metal swing set. And this elk was, for like hours every day, he would come and just swing with his antlers and just like smash the swing around and play. And then he would jump, and then he'd jump back, and he'd like pretend to fight it. And it was like he was having the best time with this swing set, and the homeowner was like, he has more fun with it than my kids do. Like my kids don't even use it. And so then I just think about like watching that, and then like watching bear cubs wrestle. Yeah,
Right,
they're
for
funny.
sure.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Absolutely.
Well, what do you think? Should we jump into the least controversial topic of the night.
What is
No,
the
here we
least
go. What is
controversial
it?
topic?
Oh, just this little thing we call gray wolves.
Oh, this little
yeah.
thing? Yeah, the little thing.
Nobody has opinions on
Well,
it. Everyone agrees.
Not a whole lot of opinions this summer, but it's going to pick up here.
Yeah, it'll definitely. It's starting
It's starting
to pick up. Yep.
Starting
Yeah.
to start. Yeah.
Yep.
It was pretty quiet for me. I don't know what you guys heard, but it was pretty quiet for me over the last winter. When the winter was so mild, I didn't get a lot of calls at all
Yeah.
about wolves or concerns. It's been quieter on my front, certainly than it was the winter before. So I'm not sure
Okay.
where you guys are at on that, but
Probably the same, really.
Yeah.
I mean, most of our issues were pre-winter,
Right.
early winter.
I wouldn't even say issues. Most of the reports and
Well, most of
what
our
we were hearing.
yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, wolves are, as you know, a very contentious issue in the state. A lot of stakeholders involved, between cattle ranchers and hunters and farmers, and a lot of different opinions on what to do about the wolves.
sure.
And about what the state of Minnesota and specifically your agency, the DNR, should be doing about wolves.
Sure.
And I've always been, labeled as a cheerleader of the DNR
Yes.
because
Have you really?
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh,
Oh, yeah.
yes.
because I've
We should get him pom-poms. I really think
Yeah.
we do. I think we said we were going to
there's
do
been
that.
there's been
talk.
a lot of talk about sending me pom-poms.
Yep.
But no, I've been very vocal about the fact that the DNR can't do anything about a wolf hunt right now. It's a federal issue. I've talked to many people from the DNR that would love to see active wolf management in the state of Minnesota, but it's not up to you all right now. And so I don't know if there's anything you want to contribute to that conversation.
There's not much. I think the latest thing on the federal level is there was a federal filing, right, in the courts. And that's where it's at. So the federal filing in the courts, we got a phone call from the Fish and Wildlife Service about that. Just,
Wow.
hey, there's this federal filing, just wanted you to be aware. And so I think certainly at my level and above, we're in communication with Fish and Wildlife Service. We really are. Like we have good working relationships at multiple levels. They understand where we are on it. We've got Minnesota's wolf plan that was updated. And so that's certainly, I think that process happened before I was in the state. But my understanding and everything I've seen and everything that I've even been told from external stakeholders is that it was a really good process. It was a 2.5-year process, very open, very transparent, tons of public input opportunities, formation of advisory committees and the technical expert teams.
Right.
So, so you get the science, the hard science in there too. And so it's just, the process was good. I will say that both the commissioner and I have spoken to schools about the wolf plan, about wolf management in the state. We talk positively about the hunts that we had from 2011 to 13. I think those were the 3 years that we did have a wolf hunt. Yeah. I'm not saying that's the only way to manage wolves by any means,
right.
But the state did a good job of having those hunts that were held with good boundaries. They were well regulated, they were well received. So it's kind of this just. Thank you, Jared, for saying that this isn't I can just sign a piece of paper and we could do that tomorrow. A, that's not how we're going to operate anyway as a state.
Right.
But B, we can't do that right now. And the commissioner does not have the authority, if I can say that a million times, the commissioner does not have the authority to do any active wolf management anyway because of the federal status. Right. So again, it's in the federal courts. I agree with that. And in the meantime, it's, that plan, if anybody hasn't seen it, it lays out what would have to happen to go down the road of a wolf hunt if the state decided to do so. If we as Minnesotans decide that's what's needed, here's the process to get us there. And so it's just kind of this, I don't know. And I think this almost comes full circle to something we said earlier in this recording about when there isn't good information out there, there's that vacuum and people tend to fill it. And that's what I see happened.
Absolutely.
In maybe like 21, 22. It was when I'd first come here and there was a vacuum and people filled it. And man, just the stuff that it was filled with was shocking to me, where I was like, come on, like, I don't know, but if people want to, give you pom-poms, and they're going to give me horns. So, it's like I'm the demon and I'm single-handedly trying to ruin, the natural resources of the state. And it's just, it's hard. I mean, it's hard to take that. And especially when you're really trying to do what's right by the wildlife of the state.
Absolutely.
It's hard.
Yeah.
Well, it's just a shame because the folks at the DNR that have their roles for even species specific. We've got Kelsey Lashar, that's the new elk.
Yep. Statewide elk biologist.
Statewide elk biologist.
Yep.
Thank you. They truly are the experts in the field, and then you have these people with a computer screen and a keyboard in front of them that think they know more than these highly trained, super knowledgeable individuals that are honestly doing their best for the species that they're out there to protect. And in your case, Kelly, it's all of them, right?
Yeah.
And that's a big job.
Yeah, I know. Thanks for reminding me.
I don't think anybody in their right mind is going to expect you to do that job perfectly,
I thought you were going to say anybody in the right mind would accept that job.
That's where I thought he was going. And I was like,
Well, no. I mean, I think, honestly, when I heard that you were taking over in that position, my first thought was, I haven't been here long. I haven't met everyone within the DNR, but that would have been my pick.
Really? Are you just saying that because I'm right here?
No.
Aw.
No, like that.
Thanks,
Honestly,
Jared. No, I appreciate that. No, that's huge. That's huge. I mean, that's huge. And like I think I said, like I was appointed to this position. I did not see it coming. I really didn't. And I was so honored and excited and yeah, it's daunting. I mean, it's a big responsibility and I don't want to let anybody down, but man, I was like, I got the energy for it, at least right now in my life, like I got it. I don't know how long I'm going to have it for, but there's just we are heading in such a good direction. And we're building so much. I'll just really quick, my first 2 years in the position as head of wildlife, I hit hiring hard. We had a lot of holes in the section of wildlife. And that's true in the division as well, which is bigger, right? So the division is the division of fish and wildlife. So when I talk about wildlife, it's just kind of one section in the division. And I hit hiring really hard when I was heading up that section because we had so many holes. And so it's like, you work so hard to rebuild teams and get people working together and bring new people on without losing institutional knowledge. And that's such an exciting dynamic thing. That then when it's, you just hear you're doing everything wrong from the outside, or it's just like, man, it's like we're trying. But I wholeheartedly believe in the direction the division is going in both the sections of fish and wildlife. And I just want to continue on that path as long as I possibly can until I keel over. So we'll see. And I'm not saying I'm going to be here like until I'm 80. I have no idea when I'm going to keel over, but it's going to, but no, it is. I mean, it's a heavy lift and it's a big responsibility. And I'm just really honored to be here.
Yeah. Well, by no means am I going to agree with everything you guys do.
That's
but
all right.
I think you've got great people around you.
Yeah, I do.
And you've got my support.
Well, yeah, for sure.
I'm fine saying that on the record.
On the record.
Send me, you want my address for where to send the pom-poms?
Right.
Sweet pea. That's off.
Yeah.
Sweet
Central Square Mall, Grand Rapids, Minnesota. Attention, Sweet Pea.
I really just thought that was his new nickname. I thought you legitimately were calling him Sweet Pea, and I was like, this is a new one.
No, we are in Sweet
Dude,
Yes.
I got it.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
I was going to say this podcast just took a turn.
I was like, Sweet Pea, like sweet pom-poms? I was like, I don't know where we're going here, guys.
pea.
Oh.
Thanks, Sugar Butt.
Okay, all right. And we've
But anyway, we were speaking of species. I mean, you're kind of responsible for all of them. There's only a couple.
Thanks.
What do you feel what do you work on the most? I mean, I know you probably don't because you deal with people mostly, but what is your area? What is the top priority? Is there one? Right now.
Is there one question? I'm going to say no.
Okay.
Truthfully. I mean, no. There's so many moving parts. And, whether it's looking at some of our fishing regs, especially changes to walleye regs on Mille Lacs, huge priority, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Whether it's talking about the elk restoration proposal that the Fond du Lac band asked, and where that project's sitting, huge important project and many players involved there, and whether it's looking at what are we doing with habitat for moose? Moose are one of those charismatic megafauna. People call it that, whether you like it that or not, but that's how they're referred. Yep, charismatic megafauna. I mean, it falls in that category. Either way, they're iconic Northwood species. And we know that we're on a long-term decline. And so what can we do for better moose management?
I agree.
And how does that relate with deer population management, right?
Right.
Deer in northern Minnesota. And then, of course, once you start talking about that, what are the dynamics between white-tailed deer and wolves? And what do we know and what do we still need to learn? And so when it's like, what's that one thing? I'm like, man, I would love to be like, oh, here's the one thing, but I don't have one.
Yeah.
You know, and truthfully, it's almost like maybe that's better. Maybe I'm like a pointer puppy where it's like I want to do 1,000 things at a time. You know, and I can spread out that attention because truthfully, that's as many moving parts as we have at any given time.
I think you have to. Honestly.
Yeah, you have to. You know, I can't put all my eggs in one basket. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I will say you brought up the moose, and I was looking at the map today from the state of their range, and it was kind of depressing. How little range there is. I swear it was damn near just the boundary waters, maybe a little more, but yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that we had, you know, we used to have the kind of two different populations of moose, right? Like the Northwest and the Northeast. And people still remember being able to hunt moose. I think we stopped that in 2013, if I remember right. And then, you know, and then that Northwest population just disappeared.
Gone.
And so, and so it's like dealing with things like that. And then you start going into like the regulation side of things, and the early teal season was really big for a few years, you know? And so we just did that 3-year pilot to see if the state could have an early teal season because we didn't have one, and other states in the flyway do. And so, you know, you start talking about waterfowl management too. I mean, there's a ton. One of the things we didn't have in the section of wildlife when I started was somebody to really focus on upland birds. So focusing on our pheasants, on our grouse, on our turkeys. And we were able to bring in a brilliant biologist. I can't remember how long he's been on board now, but Nate Huck's been on board. I think, Jared, he's been on after you. He's going to make fun of me for not remembering, but he's been a great addition, you know, and he came from, I think he was in Wyoming for a while and then over in Pennsylvania, and we snatched him up, you know, and so we've been able to bring on these great experts. And then the final plug I'll just give for because you asked me about like what I'm spending my most time on. Yesterday, the posting closed for my replacement as the head of wildlife for the state. That
3
posting
months after.
Yeah. Man, I was driving that one hard too. I had it open for, I think it was open for 21 days.
Okay.
So got that through our hiring process as fast as we could, got it posted, was open for 21 days, open competitive. So I got an email on the way here today. Yeah. I got an email that it's closed. And so here's your list of applicants. I haven't opened the email yet. So I'm almost like the kid on Christmas, right? Where it's like, what am I about to see? I have no idea.
Maybe we should decide tonight who we're going to hire.
Should we just open it right here?
Let's figure this out.
Let's do it, guys. Let's get the music going.
Contestant number 1.
Yeah.
Right. What you got to offer?
What do you got to offer? We can just call them all.
Right.
So I really don't know if I've got 5 applicants or 100. I really don't know. But that's going to be definitely my priority. Truthfully, go over the next couple months is really going through that process.
Replace yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Well, you know what the job takes.
With somebody better. I mean, that's the great thing. It's like, this is the great thing about when you do move to a new position. If you have the opportunity to fill your old one, you can put in somebody better than you were. Yeah. And so it's like, that is like, I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, no, I mean, that just goes to show why the DNR cannot spend 100% of their time dealing with a wolf issue that is outside of their control.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't get it.
And
I still don't understand.
Why? It's really the only issue, right?
Just look at all of the stakeholders that are involved here. You know, it's not just hunters. As much as hunters want the DNR to represent them, they're going to do their best. But there's fishermen, there are birders, there are hikers, there are boaters, there are
just the recreationists. Right. Out there. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, there's all these different stakeholders involved, and they're not going to represent your specific demographic in every single decision that they make. But that's where it's also important to step up, join a legitimate conservation organization that is going to advocate and be in the room with the DNR.
MDJ. Yeah.
Wow.
So I can't put in a plug, but I do want to say I agree. I mean, please step up, get involved, get engaged, get your perspectives and what you care about, get it represented by, thank you, Jared, like a reputable conservation organization. Because we listen to all the voices. We do, like that's my job, is to listen to all the voices. And so I love this message.
Yeah. That's all we can do, you know? Yep. And your voice is amplified
Right.
once you join an organization. So
For your listeners' awareness, because I know we've talked about this here in the studio, but I am going to have to be heading out here soon with Raya. We've got to go to a little event for the Rough Grouse Society here tonight. And then I got to get back home to Proctor, Minnesota. Anybody who's listening from Proctor, what up?
Go Rails. Go
You're my
Rails.
people, go Rails. Yeah, right. So I'll just say really quick, I was actually at the airport. See, this is what happens when I say I have to go, but this is like the Minnesota goodbye.
Minnesota
So
goodbye,
for the next
right.
45 minutes, my dog's just going to be antsy in here. But no, I was at the airport once in Michigan, in Detroit. And I was an assistant, what's it called? One of the professors, like a adjunct professor at Michigan State University. And I'm walking through the airport and I hear, go green. And I literally am like, go white. Like it's ingrained in you after a little while. So, and I did not attend Michigan State University. I want to be clear there, but I was an adjunct professor there for a little while. And it's a good institution too. But okay, I got down this road because I was telling these guys at break that I'm going to have to hit the road here soon with Raya. But there was one message I wanted to share. Outside of just a general thank you for having me here, but one of the really important things that I wanted to get across from today's podcast, and certainly the invite that came from you guys, like Jared and Jim and Dino. I'm sure you were on the invite too, but
told
I'm
him
pretty
today.
sure. I'm pretty sure it
today.
actually came
we
from.
don't trust him with the actual logistics.
Again, his name's going to be in smaller font.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, the thing I really wanted to get out and just for your listeners to know is that I think on behalf of the DNR and certainly the division of which I'm in charge, I'm really grateful to have you in the conservation community here in Minnesota. And I think the work that you guys do is incredible. And Jared talked a little bit about some of the recent projects over the last year with 650 acres of land that was worked on. And I think it's just, there's these partnerships that's happening behind the scenes. And I don't think, again, that we always do the best job of telling the story. But one of the reasons that brought me back into Minnesota from other states was because of the community here and the work that we all try to do. And our organizations, our agencies, our entities might not always agree on every little thing, and that's okay. But we're honestly, we're going to be better when we can try to align everywhere we can and move conservation forward. And so I just wanted to put out there for the listeners, I am extremely honored to be here today. I'm really happy you guys gave me the invitation, and I'd be more than happy to come back if you'd have me, or certainly to pull in any of our subject matter experts or other representatives of the DNR. Like I'm pumped for this opportunity.
Yeah, you're welcome back anytime.
Yeah, but
Anytime.
next time, if you're going to be hunting before you show up,
We have to.
we would appreciate
An
it.
invite.
Right.
You would want more than just the pile of ticks and
Yeah,
document
yeah,
on the
ticks
floor.
are cool.
That's, I mean,
that's cool.
It'd be cool if we had our own ticks.
fair. Okay, fair. Next time I will give you your own limit of ticks. I can do that for you. Yes.
But no, Kelly, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
And I would echo the same sentiment. We're all working to the same end goal. Sometimes we have different ideas of how to get there, but I'm sure some poet once said, I can't think of his name, all rivers reach the sea, or however that line goes.
Yep.
Did you just make that up? That was like really beautiful.
I did.
that was
Maybe
great.
you're a poet.
I think it's actually a song lyric. I just can't place the
Like
artist,
Poison or something?
You really went to Poison? Like,
Well, yeah.
does
Come
that
on.
pour some sugar on me? Wasn't that Poison?
No, that was Def Leppard. Come on.
Oh, we're getting vocal.
We're derailing. Again,
But
that's
no,
what's happening.
We got the same end goal, which
Right,
is
absolutely.
sustainability across the ecological landscape.
Right.
Opportunities for all Minnesotans to engage in enjoying that sustainability, those wildlife species, whatever that preferred mode of recreation is for you.
Right.
We might not agree on how to get there, but we can work together in a civil manner. We can
Yeah.
disagree in a civil manner.
Sure.
And I think there's great things to come.
Absolutely, there is.
Sure.
Awesome.
Well, you better get to your event.
Thanks for
Yeah.
They're probably waiting
coming
for
out
you.
with us.
Are you the guest of honor?
No, I'm definitely not the guest of honor. And now that I'm significantly,
Raya is the guest of honor.
Raya is the guest of honor. And now that I'm
Yes.
significantly more tickless than I was an hour ago.
Jesus,
Hopefully I'll be let
you
in.
must weigh 20 pounds less than you did when you walked.
I think
There's
it's an
a pile
honor.
of ticks.
It's an honor that we're going to get more ticks than the Rough Grouse Society.
Yeah, you are, yes. I'll point
Take
that
that,
out
Rough
tonight.
Girls
There you go. Thanks you guys again for having me. I really appreciate
Awesome.
it.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Yep.
Thanks guys.
Minnesota Deer Hunters Association has been building our hunting and conservation legacy over the past 40 plus years through habitat, education, advocacy, and legislation in Minnesota for Minnesota.
The Minnesota Deer Hunters Association and wolf.report proudly sponsor this podcast. However, please note that the opinions, topics, and guests featured may not necessarily align with the views, beliefs, goals, or mission of our sponsors.